This tent, you know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive souls.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. I'm Kev, your host as always, and with me as ever I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe, and for this episode of the podcast we've brought in town fan and trust member Reg Harper in on loan for the episode of the podcast. Gents, thanks for joining me, hope you're both well.
Yeah, right. I am all right.
Reg?
Yep, feeling good.
Good stuff. Okay, before we get stuck into this Tottenham review episode of the podcast, our apologies for a few technical issues for the Tottenham preview episode. I won't divulge exactly what they are, but I'll say this: it was nothing to do with me. And given that there was only two of us on that particular episode of the podcast, that doesn't really leave too much else.
It was me.
Because of those technical issues, the exclusive podcast that we hinted at last week, we've had to delay just purely because there haven't been enough hours in the day. But keep an eye out for that because that is coming along this week. Okay, Tottenham preview. What you are about to hear is not a repeat of podcasts gone by, although it very much could be, James, because Jesus Christ, will someone put the ball in the goddamn onion bag?
Yeah. Eat, sleep, miss, repeat, isn't it, really, at the moment? Bloody hell. Yeah, what can you say about that game? It's all the ingredients are there. Everything's for there, and except for somebody to poke it in from any distance, but particularly on the goal line. Yeah, it's so frustrating that we're talking about the same thing over and over again. The amount of chances they had against Wolves, same scenario. I mean, I even wrote in my match report on the Lutonian.com that it feels a bit like Groundhog Day or Deja Vu or whatever you want to call it, because for the second Saturday running in a Premier League home game, they've had an entire 45 minutes against 10 men and conceded a goal and then not got what they wanted. So, yeah, it's hard to fathom really, because they've got 4 points and they should have had many more. It's not like they're getting battered, apart from the first 10 minutes against Spurs, obviously. We've all got eyes. But, they're not getting the rewards for it. Hopefully something clicks, otherwise they're in bother. Yeah, they are. This isn't going to be a doom and gloom episode of the podcast, though. This isn't a sickener like Burnley. This is... There are positives from Saturday, and we're going to go through those shortly. But Reg, I mean, the cake mix is all fine. We've got it all in the baking tray ready to go in the oven, but the bloody door will not open. It's just, it's literally... I'd be more concerned as a Luton fan, and I would imagine you're both in the same boat here. I'd be more concerned if we weren't creating these chances, but there's only so long we can go with creating these chances and not taking them.
Yeah, you're right. But there's also a problem where very few of the players that we've got that are in the team have actually played a great deal of Premier League football before. And they're learning as they go. And going back a few years, people like Harry Haslam and Alex Stock, that were great managers for Luton, when they were being interviewed and the strikers weren't scoring, they used to turn around and say they're trying too hard. And Richarlison is a perfect example. He's trying too hard to score. All you need to do is put your foot out and hope it crosses a line. And when it crosses a line, you're going to bang him in left, right and centre.
Well, I think
Richarlison didn't do it.
I was going to say, I think Richarlison's problem is he's shit, actually. Yeah. But, that's neither here nor... I mean, how did he not have a hat-trick in the first 10 minutes? It was like... I mean, to be fair to Thomas Kaminski, and we should raise this because we were... quick enough to be fairly critical of him during the West Ham game, the Fulham game in particular, but he made two brilliant saves in the last two games at 0-0. The header from the Burnley fella from the corner, great tip over. And then on Saturday, the two saves that he made, the first one from Richarlison with his feet, and the second one from I keep on calling him Cooler Shaker. It's not Cooler Shaker.
I'd rather that. Keep on calling him Cooler Shaker.
Kulusevski. That was a brilliant save because I didn't actually realise until I watched it on Match of the Day just how late he saw that. I thought he saw it all the way from my position, saw it slightly to the left of the goal in the Kenilworth end. That was a brilliant save, and he fully deserves his call up back to the Belgium squad on the evidence of those 3 saves that I mentioned.
That was his best performance in a Luton shirt for me. Apart, Richarlison was called that first one because it was on a plate for him. So, if you're going to have a discussion about strikers missing chances, you'd expect a £60 million Brazilian international to do a little bit better than £250,000 bloke from Walsall. But
fair call. No, absolutely fair call.
Once that's not gone in, they were still swarming all over Luton, and Kaminsky's pulled off. The one with the foot is great. I mean, Porro should have scored as well, puts that wide. But the one that he saves from Kulusevski to get down so low and tip it round is absolutely wonderful. I had a great view of that because I was moved over to the bobber stand and got sunburnt in the midday heat, which wasn't too bad. I think I got away
October
with
sunburn. Who'd have thought it?
Exactly. But he's pulled off some great saves there, and I think he's looked quite comfortable, to be fair. And he made some mistakes early on, but if we're talking about a team that's learning, then he certainly has up to that point, and you've got to give him credit.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. I mean, this is what Luton do. They start slowly, particularly when we go into a new division. We learn. We steadily learn, we get better, and we get better. This is not the first time that we've spoken on this podcast in the 7 years that we've been doing it. That is because we are the only podcast that's gone from League 2 to the Premier League. It's not the first time that we've spoken about strikers struggling in front of goal or when we've gone up to a new level. We've spoken about Colo when we went up to the Championship. It wasn't happening for him. Hiltz when we went up into League 1. Just wasn't happening for him. Even last season, how long did Eli go before he really got going? And then when he did get going, he looked an absolute monster, got 10 goals. Even Carlton Morris last season didn't really hit the ground running right from the get-go, and he ended up with 20 goals. I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. Obviously, it's because they're trying something that they've not done before for the first time. But this does happen a lot, so I'm not panicking yet. And I really do believe that it will come good. Reg, Tottenham, we're not going to do too much on Tottenham because we've scared the shit out of everyone in the preview podcast that we released by doom and gloom, didn't we, James? Tottenham, I mean, that first 15, 20 minutes, I haven't seen 20 minutes of better football than that all season. You've got to hold your hands up and say credit where it's due.
Yeah, you probably won't see a better 20 minutes of football.
Well, I hope I don't see a better 20 minutes of football, to be absolutely honest with you, because it was pretty bloody good. Unless it's from, people in an orange shirt, of course. I will gladly see 20 minutes of football like that this season.
But we got through it. We was a bit hair-raising, but we got through it. And then when we settled into the game, I thought we gave Tottenham a bit of a run for their money after the first 20 minutes. I wasn't embarrassed in any way.
We wouldn't have, none of us are embarrassed. I mean, we're in the Premier League.
We were expecting them to have a lot of the ball and they scored 2 goals in every game, so that's the first time that's not happened actually. So that's something to hang your hat on as well, I suppose. But we were expecting them to have a lot of the ball. What surprised me is because we've been we've gone on the same journey as Luton. We've watched the same quality of football as always as Luton have played, and so to come into the Premier League, and we've seen how quick and speedy the game is. The Brighton game in particular was a bit of a wake-up call, but when you come up against a top 6 side for the first time, or as they are, probably undoubtedly Champions League contenders, if not title.
They're definitely top 4, aren't they? They're the best team we've played, I think.
They what is immediately apparent to me is how absolutely quick they are in speed of thought and action. They were half a yard quicker in everything than Luton at that point, because Luton couldn't get near them, couldn't get a tackle on, couldn't get near them. They were sort of playing these little triangle passing moves all the way through Luton's centre, down the sides, everything. It was really hairy stuff. And that sort of thing is probably why they're as good as they are. Those teams, Tottenham and the rest, in that top 6, But the fact that everything they do is with so much speed and precision. It's balls into feet, it's balls into the right areas, it's one-touch play, even in tight situations at the back, to get them out of any tricky situations. And that's something that is probably where that's where the quality is. That's where the difference, because you notice in that first 25 minutes that when Luton did get the ball, it was hurried, it was rushed, and then they tripped over the ball and they made misplaced passes. It was so frustrating because the pressure was on and kept giving it back and not coming to grips with it. But I think, Reg is right, that after a certain period of time, 20, 25 minutes, maybe 30, that there was more, maybe they calmed down a bit more. They got more on the ball and they started to create a bit more, which was, promising. But yeah, to see it up close like that is something else, because it's totally different to football on the TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I go to all of these games as a Luton fan. I'm there to watch Luton, but it's hard not to appreciate good football when it's played like that. They were passing it around us, let's be honest. And it's not like we weren't trying. It's not like we were given anything less than 100%, because we wasn't.
Well, it was that thing. They were half a yard quicker in absolutely everything. The way they thought, the way they played, the movement, the passing, everything was that much quicker than Luton have ever been used to. And they just couldn't get to grips with them, but they did eventually. And I suppose, if you're looking at it in the cold light of day afterwards, we're all very disappointed in the way the result went, but those things are positives that you can move forward with, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the real positive thing for me is not just did we get a hang of it, get hold of them and start containing them, we done it on the pitch ourselves. And we spoke in the Burnley review podcast, didn't we, about 2 straight home games, someone sat on their ass and they've gone and had a team talk on the sideline. None of that from Luton on Saturday. We worked it out on the pitch between ourselves. Obviously, Rob would have got his messages on because the game plan wasn't being followed. But they learnt during the game. And I think long term, when they're under pressure, because they're going to be under pressure an awful lot this season. Let's not beat about the bush. There's going to be 10, 12 teams that are going to have us under pressure regularly. To be able to fall back on that, that's going to bode well for us. That's a real positive to come out of the game.
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of people that, immediately after said, the defending was awful. But I think you can say that because they weren't getting near the ball. But is that to do with Luton, or is that to do with how good Spurs were? And I think you probably have to give some credit to Spurs. The fact that Luton had to ride their luck was always going to happen in these big games against the big teams. You're going to have an element of luck against you, or for you. And that happened because when they were reduced to long-range shots, they were going well over, which was no mean feat considering you've got Maddison and Son Heung-min on the pitch, who, by the way, was quiet the whole game, and not many people keep him quiet, which is another thing to be positive about. But it is one of these things where you just have to sort of hold your hands up and say how good they were in that period. It's not to say that you shouldn't be disappointed about the final outcome and how that came about, but sometimes you do have to hold your hands up to it.
Sometimes in sport, the other team are just better than you, and that's what it was in that first 20, 25 minutes. But Reg, it kind of changed almost on a sixpence, really. Chio picked the ball up and ran, and Basuma was like, I don't think so, sunshine. Wanted a piggyback off of him. The referee, who yet again was bloody atrocious from start to finish, gave us a free kick. Basuma got a yellow card, and they he's obviously the key, the pivot, as they call it in this day and age. From that moment on, they kind of dropped off a little bit because they knew that they couldn't leave him exposed, and we got ourselves into the game. And like you said, the last 15 minutes of the first half, we were more than a match for them. And then comes the key incident. I suppose you'd say the key incident in that first half, where Basuma goes on a mazy little run, and I don't know which worm or mole it was that tripped him up, but someone did. And
I thought it was funny.
And off your pop, son. I mean, you knew it was bad because I think it's the first red card I've seen for a God knows how long, where the bloke's just picked himself up and trudged off. Usually they stand there now for about 5 minutes waiting for VAR or something else. Off he popped.
When you watch these things on Match of the Day with other teams, and players get fouled and the player gets booked, and then 10 or 15 minutes later the same player gets booked again, they all go shouting and moaning at the referee to try and get him to change his mind. Not one Tottenham player said a word.
Got to be disappointed with that, and
And he didn't even say a word himself. He just turned around and walked off. Maybe he wants an extra week off, I don't know.
I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I've never seen people dive, don't get me wrong, but I've never seen people that have just picked up a yellow card 3 minutes earlier throw themselves to the ground, not even in the penalty box.
I was going to say, he's 5 yards out of the penalty box, for Christ's sake. You're not even trying to win a penalty, man.
It's a shame it's 2 yellow cards and not a straight red, because it's just, that's not football. If you've got to try and win a game by doing that, then I don't want to watch it.
Now, if they've got a relegation rival in 2 games' time, it's definitely not a bad thing that it weren't a straight red card. Funnily enough, we referenced on the last podcast, didn't we, that I went on a Tottenham preview podcast, and they were all talking about Basuma getting a yellow card to miss the Fulham game, but I don't think it worked out in any of their plans that he was going to get a second one and still be on 4 yellow cards for when he comes back from the suspension for the Fulham game. But, I mean, they say, don't they, there's that lazy cliche that footballers lack brains. Well, there's exhibit number 1. I mean, you're absolutely in control of the game. And then you just put your team under all sorts of pressure. It made no sense to me, but I'm mighty glad that he did it, because second half it was a different game, and it could have been an so different game in that second half. Now, I'm not here as a fat bastard who's never kicked a football on a football pitch in my life. I'm not here to tell Eli what he's done wrong and what he hasn't done wrong, and we'll hear from Eli in a short while where actually he recognised what he did do wrong, which I guess is a positive. But in the cold light of day, that's got to go in the back of the net, I'm afraid. He knows it. He doesn't need me to tell him it. I'm not going to criticise him or castrate him for too much, but condemn him, too much. But you got to put that ball in, and you got to put that ball in the back of the net. You just have to.
Well, just get a shot for a start. The fact that he got stuck under his feet and hit his arse and went off or something, it was, it was so frustrating, because Chio's done so fantastically well to get there. And by the way, what an absolute performance that guy put in. He skinned Pedro Porro in the first half, the first sort of attack Luton had, and
Pedro Porro, he was the most relieved man in the world when he got shifted over to, when Chio got shifted over to the other side, wasn't he? Udogie was like, what have I done to deserve this? Yeah. And then he got withdrawn for 15 minutes from the end to a chorus of a word that rhymes with Bianca, and that just rounded his day off nicely.
Yeah, well, I mean, what a signing he is. I mean, let's be honest, he got into the act of having a great chance and fluffing it as well. He was one, Doughty the other. Jacob Brown had a free header, but obviously the one that everyone's looking at is Adebayo. Again, there doesn't seem to be as much scrutiny over Richarlison, and that's purely because Tottenham somehow found a way to win that game. And you know, if Eli puts that in, it is a different game, because at that stage, 0-0, 10 men, who knows what would happen. I'm not saying they're going to go on to win it or anything, but it just kind of, there was 5 minutes of everything you wanted to see from Luton against 10 men, really positive, front-footed stuff. And then that happens, you think, well, that's something it'll gobble up easy. And the fact that it doesn't, I don't know what it is, because he scored his first Premier League goal against Burnley. So that's off his back. And usually when you say that about a striker, getting that monkey off their back about the first goal, and they kick on, don't they? And so I don't know if it can it be pressure at that stage? I don't know.
No, it's not pressure. It's, you look at the goal against Burnley on Tuesday night, it's instinctive. One touch, turn, bosh. That ball's come 50 yards, hasn't it? And it's, it's like too much time. I mean, how many times have we seen Harry Cornick, for example, scores the hardest ones, misses the easy ones. He just had too much time, didn't he? And he knows he should have gone left-footed. If he goes left-footed, he's got the whole. He's not missing it. It's impossible to miss if he goes left-footed. He's tried. I think Ian Wright said it on Match of the Day last night. He's tried the hardest finish that he possibly could. Should still go in the back of the net, even trying that hardest finish. But you know, I feel sorry for the lad, because I thought he had a really good game up until that point as well. Eli positioned out on that sort of left hand channel. You know, he was playing really, really well, and kind of faded very fast after that, as you would do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so disappointing. I mean, I spoke to him after the game, and fair play to him for speaking to me, because I was watching a succession of Spurs players pretend they had phone calls as they walked past the media in the mix zone, and then Eli comes along and he's happy to talk, which says a lot about them. We spoke a lot with Eli, haven't we, in previous seasons at awards, end of season awards dues, and he's always a very intelligent thinker of the game as well,
and an honest lad.
And,
you don't need to tell him. He knew that. He knows the situation. Unfortunately, he's done it on television, and he's copying it from sort of all angles, really. But you know, it was a key moment in the game. And then 5 minutes later, Town, you can't wait for Maddison to go and take that corner. You've got to follow him and make sure that if they do play the ball short, you've got someone on him. Yes, he was taking every single corner going, but Kulusevski's got the ball down in that corner. That corner could have been taken at any time, as it was. Goes to Maddison. We're not set up. He gets the ball across, pretty much tap in, no chance for Kaminsky. And it's an uphill struggle from there.
Well, yeah, watching it back on Match of the Day, Alfie let him go. You can't get near Maddison in the penalty area. As soon as you touch him, he's down. You get a penalty. And it's the same with all the others. It's not just Maddison. You've really, really, really got to be clever and very good defender to make any kind of contact and tackle in the penalty area without it being a penalty. So I just felt for Alfie. This is probably the only thing that he did wrong in the game, but he couldn't avoid doing it, in all honesty. And it was a bit of a fluff shot, really, wasn't it? He didn't whack it in the net. He sort of...
I think the point of it, though, is that he got it on target, and that's the main thing.
That's the thing, yeah.
You do that, you get it on target, and you get a chance at scoring a goal. And if, at that close quarters, it's no shame on Kaminsky for not being able to get anything on it, or it's just those are the differences, aren't they? Where Luton had 4 golden opportunities and not one of them went on target. There's the one chance they had, the only chance they had in the second half. That's on target, and that wins the game.
Yeah, well, this is what I said earlier about players trying too hard. When that ball came through, it broke through to him, and he just hit it. He didn't try and place it. He didn't try and whack it in the top of the net. He just hit it and kept it on target. Whereas we're talking about Adebayo was trying really hard to put the ball in the net with his right peg instead of his left peg, which, as Ian Wright said, was the thing to have done on his weaker leg. You've got Alfie that whacks one, 9 times out of 10. A little bit more calmness, that'll go in the top corner. You've got Brown with his header. If he'd have just cushion-headed that, it's a goal. But he wants to whack it in at 90 mile an hour. All you've got to do is just get it on target. Like you say, it doesn't have to be whacked at 90 mile an hour. It doesn't have to be placed in any particular position. If it's on target, the goalkeeper's got to save it, or someone's got to clear it off the line.
Yeah, or it goes in, and so
if not, it's
either way, it's you're happy, or you hold your hands up and go fair play to the goalie, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, you mentioned earlier we might not have won the game if Eli scored, but we've said it in nearly every podcast since them first 2 games. The first goal in Luton games are bloody massive. We don't generally cough them up when we take the lead. Generally, we see a game out really, really well. If anything, we'll go and get a second like we did at Everton. And obviously against 10 men, they'd have had to have come out, and there'd have been more space for Chio and everything else to have gone in behind. But yeah, that was depressing, that one. But the performance itself was really good. The performance was really good because it was the 3rd one in 8 days. And you could tell in the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes the team that played Tuesday night to the team that didn't play on Tuesday night. But they still kept on going. They kept on going and going and going. I mean, Chio... he's got Alan Campbell's batteries, and thankfully he nicked them off him before he went to Millwall. Reece Burke, pretty much all 3 games in 8 days, absolutely out on his feet at the end, gave absolutely everything in that, right back position to start off with, wasn't it?
Playing in an unfamiliar position, really. I mean, he has played occasionally right back, but it's not his forte, is it? And Obviously he didn't quite read the situation for that first Richarlison chance,
or he knew it was Richarlison and thought, well, we're all right here.
Maybe. They could have been that, but they changed from a back five to a back four as well, didn't they? So that takes some readjusting. If you're going to do that against a side, probably arguably the best side in the league at this moment in time, as well as Arsenal. Sorry, Tottenham fans.
Sorry, Man City fans. I don't know about Tottenham fans.
I mean, it's just a tough ask, isn't it? It's a tough ask.
Yeah, it is. And actually, it shows the tactical sort of flexibility that we've got in the squad. And it worked really. Not for the first 10 minutes, it didn't work, obviously, 20 minutes. But when we got to play our football, having those two strikers again, having Brown off them, having Chio, all of a sudden when we attacked, there were men in the box, weren't there? That's the one thing, particularly in the away games, we've struggled with getting men in the box when we've attacked. I think of Fulham, we had that one where Chong broke from the corner, and you can see it on Match of the Day because they've got the camera from behind the goal, and Chong's steaming down there, and no one's within 50 yards of him, and poor sod's got nowhere to go, has a shot, hits the target, and he's got saved. But this time, every time Chio went forward, he didn't have to stop on the edge of the box. There were people in the box, or there were people getting to the edge of the box, and he had options. And it was the same on the other side when Brown done it as well, and when Alfie had the ball. So that's a positive to do that against Tottenham. So I was pretty pleased with that. The other thing I was pleased with, Reg, and the longer the kind of game went on, was the fact that the substitutes that we brought on, Chong in particular, really impacted the game, and that just shows us that we're not all about a first 11. We've got players on the bench now that can influence the games as well, because those first 2 or 3 games, we got to the 65, 70 minute mark and onwards coming 50 million, 60 million and all this. And we were tiring, but now we can actually bring our own quality on the pitch and maintain that level for the 95 minutes or however long it is.
Yeah, it's quite simple, really. We're in the Premier League and we've had to hit the ground running. We haven't had a practice run at it. And we've got to learn as we go. And we've got to learn pretty quick. And even the pundits on Match of the Day are changing their attitudes a little bit. Where Alan Shearer said at the first game when we got beat by Brighton that we're rubbish, we're going to go straight back down. And then the comments that Garth Crooks has made. Now when you're watching Luton on Match of the Day, the comments are a little bit different, and they're a little bit more appreciative of what Luton are trying to do. And if they knew the background of Luton over the last 10 years, working their way out through the conference and improving every year, they would understand that it's going to take us 10 games to get anywhere near the kind of mark that Brentford, Wolves, Nottingham Forest have been at over the last couple of seasons. It's not going to happen overnight.
I can tell he ain't been on the podcast. It's Notts Forest, isn't it? Not Nottingham Forest. As I'm sure we'll come to in the podcasts to come over the next couple of weeks. What did you make of the subs, James? Chong in particular, I thought that was his best cameo performance. Woodrow, obviously, he's going to be remembered for that chance. It just got stuck between his feet. These things happen. 10 minutes of Barkley. Again, you can just see that he's got so much quality, but we need to get him 90-minute fit to show that quality. And Mengi had another storming cameo. I don't think it's long before he's a very tough-to-drop defender in that back three.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good game apart from that last kick of the ball, which nobody was happy with.
It's kind of still travelling, that one, isn't it?
I mean, Carlton Morris had a very serious word with him after that. If you're a defender, you shouldn't be having a pot shot from 30 yards. They should be just like keeping that alive and sticking it in the mixer, I think. But, he'll live and learn. It was good. Yeah, it was a good performance for him. It was the Woodrow one for me sort of made me think it can't be a lack of ability, because he's one of the best technicians Luton have got in terms of a forward. His touch is fantastic. You only have to replay that winning goal against Norwich, when the first touch to get him into space to take that shot was absolutely outrageously good. And so he comes on, and then his first touch is not ideal. I think match of the day they even highlighted where it should be going, which if as a striker you're always told to try and get across your defender, because then you've got to bring you down or you're clean through. And he doesn't do that, but he's got loads of time to take another touch and maybe set himself again. He doesn't, and virtually passes it into Vicario's hands. And when you're seeing that sort of thing, it can't be a lack of ability to score goals, because they've done it before. So it's just like this little element that maybe it's a rush. They're in too much of a rush to. Like, I think Reg has got it on spot on, because I've not heard that sort of point of view before. They're just trying too hard, and probably that's what it is.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think they are trying too hard, but I think they've got. And we've all had this mindset, right? We've all gone to this Premier League thing, and we're all like, oh shit, Luton ain't going to get many chances. They've got to really maximise the ones they do get. It's cobblers. Look at the chances we've created in the last 2 games. 12 shots on Saturday, more than that against Burnley, nearly double that against Wolves. Chances are not a problem now. Get this out of your head, boys, that you've got to snatch at every chance and take it. The next one will come along. Just relax, compose, put the ball in the net. We're getting many more chances than everyone thought we would do. And if you don't get the first one, there will be another one coming. It's not, it's not life and death that you've got to get. I think that's what it is. I think it's that pressure of the chances aren't going to come as regularly as they did in the Championship. We've got to make 100% use of every single one. And it just puts like a shackle on them. And there's no need to. The chances are coming regularly. If we can create that much against Tottenham, okay, Tottenham probably aren't the best defensive side in the country, but they're still a level or two above where we were going into the season. If we can create chances against them, we can create them against absolutely anyone. Just relax and start finding the target and the net.
Well, maybe it's this thing that they've seen, obviously, in the first 2 games where they just came up against 2 killers. Edwards has described it as they just took their chances so well. And you're always told that you don't get that many chances in the Premier League, and that you have to take the ones you do. And so this has been ingrained into all of our psyches over, just as fans, and probably as them as football fans, most of them, as well as players, they get that in their brain that that's got to happen. But it's a phenomenal amount of chances Luton created. And, again, you have every right to be disappointed and frustrated by the result, but then also you should be equally thrilled that. Did you ever think that Luton were going to create this many chances in the Premier League? I don't think I even did.
Oh God! I mean, I'm the most positive Luton fan that there is. I even refused to predict that we were going to lose to Tottenham in the preview podcast. I just can't bring myself to do it. And I didn't think we'd create this level of chances. Not just the level of chances, but the so good chances, aren't they? And it'll come. I'm absolutely sure it'll come. The other thing I think as well has happened is, from those first 2 games, we've been kind of overloaded defensively. We've worked so hard on our defensive patterns of play that the attacking patterns of play have probably taken a little bit of a side issue, and they probably did, because we couldn't keep conceding 4 and 3 every single game. That was going to get us absolutely nowhere. Now, over these next 2 weeks, we've kind of got the defensive sort of sorted out. Now, over this international break, let's get the other side of it worked on a bit more, and see if we flourish, and I'm sure we will. It just needs that little bit of composure, but that will come. As I say, in the divisions gone by, we've had this problem, and they've sorted it out amongst themselves. They've worked it out, and we've finished seasons very, very strongly. We always finish seasons very, very strongly, and
memories are short in football, though, aren't they? That's the thing.
Well, yeah, I don't think memories are short within Luton fans, are they? We've just got all these bellends that are attached to this league that won't let you forget, like, even the slightest mistake, even regardless of the fact that, like you say, Richarlison missed the target. Eli just scuffed his that it didn't get to the goal. Richarlison missed a goal completely from half the distance. It's like, do us a favour. It's very, very frustrating. But like you said, James, the absolute positive is we've just played against a bloody good Tottenham side who will not be out of the top 4 this season, barring something crazy, because they were better than Brighton and Chelsea. So there can't be 4 teams better than them in this league. And we went toe to toe with them and created some seriously good chances, and we've come off the pitch frustrated that we've not got something from the game. That's the positive to it all.
Did you notice that Tottenham didn't want to give us too many set pieces anywhere near their box?
I don't blame them.
Especially corners. They did everything they could to avoid giving a corner away.
Yeah, but that's...
because they can't defend corners.
Well, that's smart football, because Luton's strength, as we alluded to in the preview podcast, is set pieces. And we'd said that that's our strength. And yet again, Alfie's fired 13 more crosses in the game. Absolute, gold dust, these crosses and everything else. And we are a hard team to defend against. They're all saying it. Even Ange was complimentary of both of his centre-backs, that they had a real tough game and they defended really well, and they did. I mean, let's not forget, this is a World Cup winner that we was up against, and I'm pretty sure I saw a quote. If I didn't see it after the game, I saw it before the game. Lionel Messi says Christian Romero has the potential, or is the best defender in world football. Now, he's a pretty good judge, that bloke, because he can play the game of association football. So if he's saying that, and we've gone toe-to-toe and we've given him a good game, to the point that the Spurs manager has accepted that, that's a huge, huge positive for our football club.
It is. All of these things, when you pick them out and you really analyse it, it makes you feel a lot better about the game, because at the time, and obviously there'll still be people that only really focus on the result, and obviously it's a results game, so of course you can, and you have the right to that. I'm going to have to keep saying this, because I know there are people that can't understand that 2 things can be thought at the same time, which is that be disappointed by the result, but it's good to be disappointed by that result, if that makes sense, because that they've had all the chances to take a result from there and take points. Whether that was a draw or whether that was a win, I don't know, but you've had the luck to ride out that first 10 minutes, got back into the game, got the man advantage, played really well, should have taken the lead, and it doesn't happen. But we said in the previous podcast, nobody's expecting Luton to beat Tottenham, and that's the scenario. So it's, I'm like you, I don't really want to say free hit, but nobody's predicting points against Spurs for that. So they've done a really good job. They're just not the perfect job.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of summing it up, isn't it? I mean, they're all the kind of consensus, the sort of cliche these days is that the performance is the result is the byproduct of the performance. And if we perform like that for the last 30 games of this season, I have absolutely no doubt there are points out there for Luton Town. Now, whether there's enough to finish 4th from bottom, time will tell. But there's definitely points out there. Before we get the thoughts of Rob and Eli, the crowd, Reg, it was brilliant in the stands on Saturday. The atmosphere was fantastic. The noise was electric. It was just like, those 2 games that we compare it to all the time last season, Watford and Sunderland.
It's great atmosphere down at Kenny. Always is for me, but Saturday was great. It's unusual because 12:30 kickoffs can be awkward for some people, especially people that have to work on Saturday mornings.
I loved it. I think bring on 12:30 kickoffs all the time, I reckon. Let's start a petition. I fucking loved it.
But yeah, the crowd enjoyed it. They were up for it. It's just a pity that by the time we got home, you get on social media, so many people complaining about this, that and the other and everything else. And we're sitting here talking about the pros and cons and the good bits and the bad bits. I can't make out sometimes what the fans actually want, as opposed to what they're watching in a live game of football, that they feel the need that they have to condemn and criticise afterwards. Yeah,
your problem is that you're using social media as a baseline, and in this league, do not use social media as a baseline, because, as I say, there's so many clickbait idiots in it that it's not a fair reflection. I think everyone at Kenilworth Road on Saturday were proud of the team. They showed that at the end, but they were disappointed that we didn't get what we deserved out of the game, and that's absolutely fine. Those 12:30 games, Rob seems to forget them quite quickly, didn't he? Couldn't even remember that we played Watford at 12:30 last season in his pre-match presser. I think someone had to remind him of that. Of all the games, Rob, that you're that you'd forgotten. Not that one, that's for sure. Let's hear from Rob then. Sent James along to get all the audio from his post-match press conference, and he basically sums it up perfectly, as he always does.
We're saying the same things, aren't we, at the moment, which is frustrating, and I feel like we've left points out there today. Look, Tottenham started really well and really strongly, and we didn't come out the traps for the first 10-12 minutes. But after that, I thought we really grew into the game. We started executing what we planned to do, and we were doing it well. So in the end, I was relatively pleased at half-time, pleased that we're in there, we're in the game, it's 0-0. Not had any big chances really, but apart from that disallowed goal at half-time, that's okay. But the dynamic changed because of the sending off. So it was an opportunity for us then to really, to be even more, to try and be more aggressive. We felt the change that they did, we kind of predicted that. We thought Højbjerg would come on because they'd keep the way they're playing. They'd just take one more number off their last line. So we changed our shape to go to a back three again, have three against their front two, and then we could be man for man everywhere else and have width with Chio and Alfie. First couple of minutes, it worked really well. We had a huge opportunity, a massive chance, which in the end, we didn't take, and we've been punished for, because then, we switched off with a short corner as well. Those two moments are big in the game, and then we huffed and puffed and tried, and we had a couple of other big moments that we didn't take. So yeah, I'm saying the same things at the moment. They're an elite team, and just because then they're down to 10 men, it doesn't mean, right, just go and win now, Luton. It's not that easy. It's that's still hard for us, and they're very well organised. But yeah, I do feel like we left something out there. We left points out there today, and we do need to learn quickly on that. We need to make sure our mentality is right in every single moment. Defending a corner against Tottenham, you've got to be at it. I was really pleased with a lot of what I saw there, but I'm really disappointed and flat as well, because we could and maybe should have, after the way the game went, after they missed some chances early doors and then going down to 10 men, the way the game went and with the chances that we missed, we could have got something from the game and should have. We're competing well and performing well. If we weren't performing well, we were getting battered every week. That I think would be difficult, But I don't see that at the moment. I don't think any of you would say you see that. You see a team that's fighting. You see a team that's committed. Of course, today, there was a few chances early on in the game, but then after that, I thought, we looked a good team. They're going to have the lion's share of possession, the quality that they've got. That's just how it is. We're mainly, especially in this league, we were last year, but mainly in this league, we're going to be an out-of-possession team that's got to be organised and try and hurt teams with our strengths when we can. So no, I'm seeing good performances. I'm seeing a lot of stuff. It's just, the points are then really what keeps the belief there as well. But no, this is still early enough now to make sure that the belief remains. We've got time now to get a little bit of work done together. Obviously, if you go off an international trip, we can get some good work in. We need to recover, get some bodies back, and we go again. We can't feel sorry for ourselves. We wanted this. We've got promoted and we wanted to be here and test ourselves against the big boys, and we're doing that, and I'm really enjoying it. And the lads are, if you ask them, really, they're loving it. They're loving it. But we don't like losing. I've got to make that clear. So let's keep working hard, keep improving, which we are doing, and we'll pick up points.
Yep, perfectly balanced reflection. Disappointment met with pride from Rob, and he's spot on. We also sent James along to speak to the man who should have been the scorer of the opening goal, but wasn't quite, Elijah Adebayo, who, fair play, as James said earlier in the podcast, he fronted up, he spoke to him, and he was really, really honest with his count, and here's what he had to say.
That feels like a bit of defeat to take, considering that second half you had.
After the first 10 minutes, I think we kind of got to grips with the game plan that we put in place, and we know that Tottenham are a good team. We know we're going to have to be perfect in a sense, because they've got some really good players. But after the sending off, obviously it was quite late on in the second half, we had another game plan, different game plan. Myself, if I score, I think it's a completely different game, and those are the fine margins in this league. You see, obviously, down to 10 men, but they take their chance, and makes the game a little bit easier for them because they can sit in their shape. But like I said, we're learning every week. We've got to, we know where we've got to improve that deadly instinct in the opposition box, and I'm sure it will come over the next few weeks, and now we've got some time to obviously reflect and get ourselves together ready for Nottingham Forest.
What happened with your chance? Just get stuck under your foot?
Yeah, it was just it was just I think if I go left foot score, I just gone with the wrong foot and it's just gone underneath me. But strikers miss and they have to try and bounce back, and that's what I've got to do. I've got to bounce back and not let it affect me too much. But I know we'll see. Let the boys down today, but be working hard in the week again to try and rectify that.
Yep, fair enough, Eli. Hey, look, everyone makes mistakes, everyone misses chances. Put the next one in the back of the net and we'll all be forgotten. Before we finish this podcast, James,
if you want to read more about that, by the way, because I had a good conversation with Eli, you can go to Lutonian.com this week and there'll be more stuff on that.
I was coming to that at the end, but we'll let you get your plug in halfway through. It's not a problem. Before we finish this podcast, I was down at the training ground last week to record a special podcast with Jacob Brown, which we will release later this week. And whilst I was waiting for Jacob to come out of the team meeting, someone who looked like Andros Townsend walked past me. And I was having a little bit of a natter. And, turns out he's been training with the club for a week, was playing in the under-21 game on Friday night, which we now know he played the entire 90 minutes of. And talks are that, he's going to sign or a deal is going to be offered that keeps him here potentially until January, if not longer. Very experienced player. I was actually quite surprised that he's only 32. I thought he'd been around a lot longer than that. England international, serious quality. Can't be any negatives to this if a deal goes ahead, can it? We've got a spare space on the 25-man squad. May as well fill it until January.
Absolutely, if it works for both parties, which was the gist of what Rob was telling us on the Spurs pre-match press conference on Friday, which is when we got the news from him. I'd seen Andros walking around, so it's fairly obvious as well, like you had seen him walking around. But if it works for both, then great. I think there's a couple of things that would be a benefit. One's the Premier League experience. He's played over 250 games in the Premier League. He's an England international. I think he also fits one of the criteria of Luton signings, which I think he's, even at 32, he's got something to prove, because he's been knocking around Everton, not really getting a sniff, and he's been having to battle against everything that goes off the pitch with that club at the moment, as well as on the pitch. Not personally, obviously, but he's been part of that dressing room, which has had to take the brunt of it. So he's got something to prove there. But he's also, everybody would have seen, obviously, the story that he came out and said that he had been training and with Burnley for the whole pre-season and looked like he was going to sign a contract, to the point that he was looking at schools for his kids and stuff like that, and had shirt numbers, discussions about shirt numbers, and then they pulled the contract, and he said he was in tears about it because, he is in the twilight of his career, but he's been out injured for a while as well, so he's probably not got the mileage on his legs that would suggest of a 32-year-old, but he's still got the games behind him, Premier League games, and the international experience. So there's something there for him, something to prove for him. I think that he can still cut it in this division. I think the main thing is that he knows where to stick. He knows where the goal is, and he knows where the goal is from 30 yards. So, while we're struggling on the line at the moment, if he comes up, pops one in the top corner from 25 yards, more the better. I suppose the only question mark is probably where he's going to play, because, I don't have the greatest knowledge of Andros Townsend beyond maybe England, because I wasn't paying attention to the clubs that he played for, but he's more of a winger, isn't he? But, if a lot of Luton stuff is going down the wing as it is at the moment, then, could add to that. But I don't see any downsides to adding that one player if he's the one player, because there's space in the squad.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't play very often, if he raises levels in training, that could be just as important as anything else. That contract at Burnley obviously got pulled because he didn't hit the floor quickly enough or do enough forward rolls when he was on the floor. But thankfully that is, that's the case. Yeah, so he's been training at Luton for a little over a week. He played the whole 90 minutes of the under-21 game at Leeds, or at York against Leeds, on Friday night, and our understanding is that will be resolved at some point during this international break. He'll either be a Luton player in time to play at Notts Forest, or he won't be, and he'll go elsewhere, like Crystal Palace, which TalkSport sources, no less, said he was going to Crystal Palace whilst I was on my way home from recording that podcast, where I'd spoken to him not half an hour previous. Not sure what that says about TalkSport sources, but I can guarantee the LTST podcast sources are much more accurate than that. That's for sure. Okay, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Our thanks, as always, go to the Hightown Club for hosting this episode. Our thanks also to Liam Smith for any images that you've seen throughout any of our podcasts, actually, not just this one. He's the one who's snapped all of those for us. So you can find him on his Facebook page on the links of where you've picked up all of our podcasts. Thanks to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, which had a really good comment, actually, didn't it, in a previous one on YouTube that said it was more iconic than the World Cup winning line as well. And I actually agree. It gets me going as much as that too.
That's what we got it made on the basis of, the Italian 90 New Order, World in Motion track. So sort of obviously don't rip that one off, because we can't afford to pay off New Order, but do something similar and he come up trumps.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant intro. And obviously as well to Ed Smith Creatives for all of the images and designs that you see on our set. But thanks most importantly to you for watching or listening. If you're not a member of the Trust, as we always say, if you'd consider joining, we'd really appreciate it. The stronger our membership, the louder our voice can be, the more importance that we can have. And you only have to look at some of these clubs that we come up against, even in this league, to see that owners can be bad people. Thankfully, we've not got that, but who knows what the future holds. So yeah, if you want to join the Trust, hit our website, www.lutontownsporterstrust.com. There's a link on there to sign up. £10 for adults, £5 for concessions, and you get all of the season for that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will be back with the Jacob Brown preview podcast later this week, and our monthly podcast in the middle weekend of the international break. Until then, James, Reg, thanks for joining me, and come on, you Atters.
Can you believe it? We are Premier League! Yes!
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul. We're Luton people.